Hello, Management 425 students. I know we just got done with class. Actually, we just finished our final class before exam 3, but I wanted to take a minute, quickly walk you through the slides that we covered at the end of class, just to make sure everybody's on the same page regarding personality. And I also want to make sure that you're on the same page about what's going to actually be on the exam. So, exam 3 is covering chapter 7, Trust, Justice, and Ethics, chapter 8, Learning and Decision Making, and chapter 9, which is Personality, which we talked about today. So, some of you have already taken the Big 5 personality test before. All of you I know have taken it for my class and have written about it in your self assessment. So, the material we covered today in terms of identifying the traits is not new. But what might be new to you is how we can use those traits to help make decisions as managers and to help better understand our employees. So, as you're studying for your exam, I don't just want you to know what the 5 traits are. I want you to know how they affect employee behavior. So, I want you to know which traits affect job performance. As we talked about in class, the best predictor of job performance is conscientiousness. I also want you to know which traits affect job satisfaction. So we talked in class about extroversion and neuroticism affecting job satisfaction. And why is that the case? Because of those moods and emotions that employees experience. So it's not enough to just know what the traits are, but I really want you to know, how does it shape employees' behaviors in terms of job performance and attitudes in terms of job satisfaction, and what kind of striving do they engage in? Is it status striving? Is it communion striving? I want you to be able to put those concepts together in your head. Okay, so I'm just going to do a very brief synopsis, so to speak, of the last slides. So I'm going to do a screen share here. And you should now be able to see my slide on the RIASEC model. So this should look familiar to you because we talked about it in class today. So the RIASEC model is measuring interests. So while the Big 5 personality measure is measuring personality traits, RIASEC is getting at employees' underlying interests. And this is that very long, very fancy definition that basically says our interests are things that we prefer in terms of what environments we prefer to be in and what activities we prefer to engage in. So if we give our employees the RIASEC test, we're going to be able to figure out what their interests are, and then we're going to be able to know how these interests map on to different jobs. So there's 6 different types of jobs that are comprised of different types of interests. So realistic jobs are those that are practical and hands-on and involve real-world tasks like building things, being able to work with your hands to create things. In class, we gave the example of a carpenter. Investigative jobs are for individuals who enjoy abstract problems, who enjoy being analytical and engaging in theory. So here we might have medical researchers, we might have scientists, even yours truly, professors who conduct research. We also have artistic jobs, and these artistic jobs are for individuals that like entertaining other people or fascinating other people with their work. So here, individuals that like to be, entertaining. So an actress or an actor, a sculptor, a painter, even a graphic designer, being able to create things that give others pleasure. Social jobs are targeted at helping other people, so helping or serving or assisting other people, not simply working with others, but in a way that allows you to help them. An example might be a hospitality manager. We could also see a nurse here, a social worker, a restaurant server, a restaurant manager, any way that we're able to better serve other people. Enterprising jobs are for individuals who like persuading, who like leading, or even outperforming other people. These kinds of jobs would be great for people who are competitive. So you might find a sales manager, you might find a stockbroker, a CEO, a leader. All of those would fall under enterprising. And then lastly, we have conventional. And conventional are for individuals that like organizing, counting, or regulating things. An example might be an event planner. You might also have an accountant, You could have an administrative assistant, anybody who's good at taking information and organizing it, and making sure that things have order. So those are the 6 types of the RISEC model, and this gives us a better understanding how interests align with jobs. This graphic here comes straight from the textbook, and it sort of shows all of these jobs as they lay out on these 2 axes. So you'll see that the jobs are really categorized by how we work with things and also how we work with people, as well as do we work with data or prefer working with ideas. Really what I want you to get from the RISEC model is the big takeaway is that our employees are going to be more satisfied with their jobs. They're going to be more knowledgeable about their jobs, and they're going to be more likely to stay if the job matches their interests. So it's really important to understand what are our employees' interests and then identify if the job those employees are working in even matches. If there's a match, we're going to have better job fit, and that's going to be better for performance and for commitment. If there's poor fit, those employees are likely to leave once they find a job that's a better fit. So we do care about whether or not the jobs match their interests. Okay, so we didn't talk about this in class, but it's a brief slide, and it talks about how we measure personality. What we did say in class is that you can use personality tests in order to make selection decisions. So if you want to hire an employee, it's perfectly fine to use a valid and reliable measure of personality and factor that into your decision. I would probably say you should not use only a personality test in order to make the hiring decision. It should be one piece of a bigger package, so to speak. So there are 2 different ways that we can measure personality. These are interviews and tests. It turns out that job interviews are not really the best way of making hiring decisions, even though we think we're pretty good at it. So when it comes to personality, there are some traits that are more easily viewable in interviews, but some traits that we're actually not able to tell just based off an interview. So if we give someone an interview, we're going to be most likely to detect how agreeable they are, how extroverted they are, and how open to experience they are. Does anybody see a problem there? I hope some of you are sitting at your computer saying, oh yeah, that's problematic. Because what can interviews not detect? Conscientiousness and neuroticism. This is really important because the best predictor of job performance when it comes to personality is conscientiousness. Based on an interview alone, we are not very able to determine how conscientious an individual is. Why? Because all job applicants are probably going to say they work hard and they are persistent and they're organized. But those behaviors are harder to see in an interview alone. It's probably easier to determine if somebody is extroverted and outgoing and friendly and warm and kind. You can see those traits more readily. But when it really comes to the trait that predicts job performance, conscientiousness, we're not able to see it. So the best way, the most reliable, valid way to measure personality is through personality tests. If you want to include personality in your selection decision, you can, but don't count on the interview to do it. Instead, give an actual measure of personality to your employees, and then make sure that the traits that you're looking for in the job align with the traits of the employee, right? We can also give integrity tests. So these are another kind of test that we can give to try to measure how much integrity, how honest an employee is. The textbook talks about this in terms of integrity tests that have a clear purpose, so you know they're measuring your integrity, and integrity tests that have a veiled purpose, so you don't actually know that they're measuring your integrity, but there will be a series of questions that might ask you about your level of honesty. For our exam on Wednesday, you don't have to know about integrity tests. There aren't any questions on the exam about it, but I think it's important to know that we can give both of these types of tests, and they can both be used to make decisions about employees, whether or not we want to hire them. But we really need to make sure that the tests we're using are reliable and valid. So again, reiterate, I'm so sorry to just belittle the point, but it really is this. Conscientiousness is the best predictor of job performance, and the best way to measure personality is going to be through personality tests every time. Okay, So some of you might be asking, well, do personality and integrity tests really work? Can't you just lie or can't you fake? Well, it turns out faking has actually been studied quite a bit in terms of personality tests. And researchers have determined that, yes, everybody fakes a little bit. So when we take integrity tests or we take personality tests, we tend to inflate um, our evaluations of ourselves. But these tests do have a grain of truth to them. So if we are moderately conscientious, we might inflate our response so that we appear moderately high in conscientiousness. We're bumping ourselves up. But everybody is bumping themselves up a little bit. So because all individuals fake a little, correlations with workplace outcomes are unaffected. So do we fake? Yes, a little. Does it affect the overall outcome of the test? No, because everybody's faking. So everybody's scores are inflated a little bit. There's a graphic from the textbook that's helpful in sort of understanding this point or sort of displaying this point. And it's this. So here we can see that somebody's score, the amount of faking that they engage in. So here this person is dishonest and they bump up their score to show that they're less dishonest, right? And here this person is somewhat dishonest and they bump up their score to be a little more honest. So each person is bumping up their score to some extent. What we don't generally see is somebody who's really low changing their score to be totally high. So if you're an introvert, you're unlikely to answer all of the extrovert questions very high. You might bump up the extent to which you're extroverted, but you're not going to totally drastically change your results so that you appear wildly extroverted. So again, everybody's faking. So when we run correlations, we're able to use some of these faking results here, and it doesn't change the overall relationships, okay? If you have questions about that, let me know. So this is our final slide that we covered in class today, but I just wanted to go through it one more time so that it didn't feel quite so rushed. So does personality matter for those two outcomes that we care about? Yeah, it does. It matters for both job performance and organizational commitment. What's really driving the two outcomes here is conscientiousness. So when we're talking about personality and how it affects performance and how it affects commitment, what we're really talking about is that trait of conscientiousness. So personality and job performance are correlated at 0.3, which is a moderate positive correlation. Overall, when we're looking at different types of job performance, personality is going to most strongly predict task performance, how employees will do on their actual tasks. Personality is also positively related to citizenship behaviors. So if you're more conscientious, you're going to be more likely to help the other people around you in the workplace. Similarly, if you're more conscientious, you're going to be less likely to engage in those counterproductive work behaviors. Okay, so moving on to the last point here, personality also affects organizational commitment to the same extent. It's a moderate positive 0.30 correlation. Conscientiousness is related to persistence. Individuals are likely to persist in tasks, to work hard, to be diligent. And for this reason, conscientious individuals are more likely to stay with their organizations. Okay, so that brings us to the end of personality. So again, the key takeaways, I want you to know how personality helps organizations. I want you to know the different types of behaviors that are driven by personality. And I want you to have a general understanding here of how job performance and organizational commitment are affected by personality. If you have questions about what's going to be on the exam, or you have questions about any of the material presented today, please, please, please come see me. Stop by my office, send me an email, show up at my house. Just kidding, don't show up at my house. Anything at all that I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I can't know what you don't know if you don't communicate with me. And it is my job to make sure that you feel comfortable with the material. Okay, that's why we're only focusing on 3 chapters in order to minimize the amount of content that you have to remember for this exam. So start studying, complete the attribution worksheet, finish the practice exam. Have you taken it? How did you score? Do you feel like you know the information fairly well? If you don't, it's time to dig deep and study. You've got 2 days. I'm not going to be there on Wednesday to answer your questions. So now's the time. Stop by. There's no judgment. I love it when you guys ask questions. It's how you learn. And again, I'm just here as a resource in any way that you might need. Okay. I believe in you guys. Get some good night's sleep. Eat some healthy meals. Believe in yourself. If you've been coming to class, if you've been doing the assignments, if you've been engaged in the conversations, then you're going to do well. I believe in you and I know you will. Okay. So have a great exam. Best of luck to you all. And I'll see you guys a week from now. Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good afternoon. I will see you later. Bye.